Hymns of Vishwamitra. Sukta 7. They who have climbed from the dark-backed foundation have entered the father and mother, have entered into the 7 voices. The father and mother who dwell encompassing all, move abroad and go forward to give by sacrifice long extended the life. He reached the milch-cows that dwell in heaven, the mares of the male, the divine rivers that carry in their flow the sweetness. The one light moves on the way around thee when thou seekest thy dwelling in the house of the truth. On every side he ascends them, and they become easy to control. He awakes to knowledge and is the Lord and discoverer of the riches. Fire, with his blue back and many diverse faces, brings them from the ever-moving foundation to a settled dwelling. The rivers, energized and bear his mighty force of formation, firmly fixed and undecaying. He shines out wide with his limbs in the world of his session, and has entered earth and heaven as if they were one. They knew the bliss of the ruddy shining bull, and they rejoice in the rule of the Great One. They are the lights of heaven luminously blazing, and the word of revelation is their mighty common speech. And great by the knowledge of the great Father and Mother, they led his strength in the wake of its proclaiming call, where the bull bears his worshipper round the hold of night, towards its own seat. 7 illumined seers, guard by the 5 priests of the pilgrim rite, the beloved seat of the being that is set within. Moving forward, the imperishable bulls take joy. The gods move according to the law of the workings of the gods. I crown the 2 supreme priests of the invocation. The 7 pleasures take their rapture by the self-law of their nature. The truth they express, the truth only they speak. Guardians of the law of its action, according to that law they shine. The many rays well governed in their course grow passionate for the great horse, the many-hued bull. O divine priest of the call, rapturous awaking to knowledge, bring here the great gods and earth and heaven. The swift running dawns have shone opulently, bringing us our satisfactions with their true speech, their rays of intuition. And do thou, O fire, by the greatness of the earth, cut away for the vast, even the sin that has been done. O fire, achieve at my call the revealing speech, the many-actioned, the lasting conquest of the light. May there be for us a son of our begetting, pervading in his birth. O fire, may there be created in us that true thinking of thine. And so, pivoting in the supernal occasion of its full nature's acquaintance, and ripening to this disclosing realization of the uncaused cause of full informed, native and natural presence. If it is unimposed upon, if it is not coerced or constrained or alienated by any other, then like the full fruition of a life, that in it which is alive, that in it which delivers the eminent, inherent, universal, consecrate and embracing reality, is of full suchness, is of full essence, is the truth of the undying, uncreate and unborn and unconstrained, in the fulfillment of its operation of range and address and being of institution and union. So that gong struck again and again, that final passage of attaining the revealing speech, the full transported meaning of revelation, access, association of life and comprising, that like the inherent realization of the seed contains the full dimension of living revelation of birth in its own uncoerced essence, the many-actioned, in this the lasting conquest of the light, becoming one with the source of its condition, occasion and cause. So attaining that perfect birth, that in its own nature, in his own birth, pervades, bringing unconditioned eminence to its enriched, delivered association of prescience and presence, of witness and combining, bringing this true thinking of the source and creation and conversion of essence of cause, rouses as the beacon's center, which again and again, beyond all narrow aspects, meditates to the heart of this intone, incline, reclamation and fulfillment of life, witness, nature, being, soul and imparting. And so from the very beginning, just as doers of the work, seekers of the Godhead, turn Godwards in this one principal seat, source and soul and way, so here at the beginning of this Sukta, they who have climbed from the dark-backed foundation have entered the father and mother. That is the universal Gnostic embrace, the foundation of being, they who have climbed the dark back, the uninterrupted foundational measure that comes to the heart and soul of witness. This is the true realization and nature and presence of the reality and inherence and witness of all. And so this all has entered into the father and the mother, these two aspects of the fulfillment of generation and birth, which in and of and through this eternal reality's nature consecrate and comprehend to their delivery, unison, and revelation of full entirety. They who have climbed from the dark-backed foundation have entered the father and mother, have entered into the seven voices, the full dimensions of manifestations, witness, and birth, which are voices speaking this eternal and unparted. The father and mother who dwell encompassing all, so they enter into that truth that encompasses every single seat and soul and nature of uncreate, unconditioned, and uncaused witness. They dwell encompassing all and have moved abroad, who move abroad and go forward to give by sacrifice long extended the life. And so the fulfillment of these twin aspects that are unparted in the continent and universal truth go abroad to give by revelation, integration, sacrifice, long extended, unrestrained, wide in its own measure, the life. The life is the result, the life is the purpose, the life is the essence, the unconditioned to the unconditioned, the divine mind and the divine mind, the full meditated foundational relation which is inspirited in the only principle and presence and soul and truth of all, into its innermost embrace of expression established. And so that one uncreate, that one unconditioned, that one fire which assumes the tone beyond the speaking at the full mantle of the whole, he reached the milch-cows that dwell in heaven, the mares of the male. So all of these dimensions are felt over in the universality that comprises them from within. So the nourishment that tends in loved association, like the stream to its direction, like the nourishment to the fulfillment of life in the source, like the mares to the male of the herd, like the divine rivers that carry in their flow the sweetness, it in all has been reached. Hence, climbing the dark-backed foundation implies that everything can and does climb the dark-backed foundation, and an uncoerced essence and truth reaches those communions of the utmost state in its own reality. He reached the milch-cows that dwell in heaven, the mares of the male, the divine rivers that carry in their flow the sweetness, the intoxication of this richness and fullness of bliss and purpose and truth. the one light moves on the way around thee when thou seekest thy dwelling in the house of the truth. And so as the ingenerable and uncaused supernal and continent entirety, it overtakes and embraces the full attitude of the term in its own measure. When everything is turned Godwards, seeking the Godhead, inheriting the unbroken source and cause and communion of all measure, that unconditioned reality's truth, that one light, is kindling unto itself, is moving on its way around thee, containing thee, comprehending thee, awaking what seems to be mediation or fusion of function to the truth of the revelation at the center of the self-law, of the only cause and condition nature of being of its comprising. As one seeks, as you seek, as thou, this nature too seeks the dwelling in the house of truth, the full radiance being set into the self-radiant, unconditioned, omnific, purposeful and entire. On every side he ascends them, and they become easy to control. So only in a condition of this non-dual reality, where the settling term, the settling reality, the settling cause is the essence of all effect, can the effect, can the expression be taken, captivated, included, the rays by their own light delivered to the source of their communion and call. And so its free and hearing habitation gives to self-revelation and harmonization the unalienated truth of its full limit. On every side he ascends them, and they become easy to control, as the end in eminence becomes all in all into the heart of their own truth. He awakes to knowledge, attaining that concord at the basis of being in the principle and state of life and soul and function, and is the Lord and discoverer of the riches. So when the other end becomes the truth and inherence of the foundational presence, when the bliss, the full richness, the full entirety of the organism attains to the focal and inherent full association of union of cause, then it becomes the center, it becomes the full, it becomes the unparted foundational being's ground that awakes in itself to its full consciousness, its full purposeful communion, and is the inner controller, is the Lord, is the agent, and the discoverer of the riches in this unparted full association of its nature, truth, and entirety. And so this supreme supernal peace, like the back of the water's fluidity, fire, with his blue back and many diverse faces, all the aspects of this witness in its own state, brings them from the ever-moving foundation to a settled dwelling. And so in full consecrate revelation at the foundation of communion and cause, the settling into the truly equal, the truly present, the truly foundational, delivers the peace that are only communed, awoken to, inspired and inhabited in this eternal fusion and infusion that is just the blinking witness revelation effect of its full truth that depends on its unconditioned entirety. The rivers energized and bear his mighty force of formation, firmly fixed and undecaying. So just as all the many are brought from the ever-moving, the transcendent Satchitanand in self-law of rapture to the settled dwelling, so the rivers energized and bear this mighty force of formation, which in itself is firmly fixed and undecaying. He shines out wide with his limbs, and thus, taking as the limbs of his instantiation the limbs in the whole, become expressions, as the mediations of a life become expressions of the life and are not separated or apart from that self. He shines out wide with his limbs in the world of his session, for this is the whole occasion is his session, and has entered earth and heaven as if they are one. So the eminence and the fulfillment in eminence in the uncaused nature delivers the communing truth of full manifestations comprising manifestation and eminence, uncaused communing self-luminous foundation of being, and the full impartiture of manifestation self are non-dual to its own truth of witness and state and reality and comprising. Hence, as from the beginning they who have climbed from the dark-backed foundation enter into the eternal parents of this truth, so they knew the bliss of the ruddy shining bull, the male of the herds, the full fusion of the fire. And they rejoice in the rule of the Great One, this eternal bliss, this eternal Satchitanand, this fullness of ecstasy in the revelation of the self-law, giving the rule of the foundation of self-nature all through all, in non-separation fulfilled and combined, embraces unto every instance's truth of revelation through all. They are the lights of heaven, luminously blazing, being supremely unconditioned, its full revelation of the nature of its reality in its life is the truth, is the luminous, self-luminous condition of communion of nature that seats, is set, is satiated, is communed, is present to the life and the life, into and unto and through all, expressed in the reality of its nature and witness. They are the lights of heaven, luminously blazing, and the word of revelation is their mighty common speech. This one utterance, this one word, this one undying incarnation of fulfilled communion and witness, meaning, message, and passing, is the common speech, the essential lifeblood, the shared condition of truth and nature that is common into each, common into all, and mighty ruling to the full dimension of being, witness, and comprising. And great by the knowledge of the great Father and Mother, unalienated from the parents, unalienated from the full dimension of the union in its witness and inclusion unto eternity, of the divine love, of the divine pillar, of the embrace unto the foundation of the full aspect of things, is made great in that unto all, and great by the knowledge of the great Father and Mother. They led his strength. They drew the mightiness of this unimposed upon nature in the wake, in the flow, in the expressed essence of its proclaiming call, which embraces and gives the full revelation of witness of all manifestation, creation, uncreate creation, expressed and advanced and comprised, where the bowl bears his worshipper round the hold of night towards its own seat. And so that mighty reality, that unconditioned reality, that bowl of the herds, bears round the dimension of being, gives the whip, gives the communion of the harmonization, of the articulation of the call, drawing everything to its own seat in the wake of this fulfillment truth, being of instance and realization of the foundational truth and soul of nature. And so through all the dimensions, through the 7 illuminated seers, unparted from this witness and truth, 7 illumined seers guide by the 5 priests of the pilgrim rite, the beloved seat, this foundational apex of culmination and presence and center of the being that is set within. For it is this being that is set within that sounds the wake and fulfills it to its unconditional truth, uncaused aspects full combining. Moving forward, being positive, being continently supreme and universal, the unimperishable bulls take joy, the communion of this truth in essence unto the soul and foundation of all. The gods move according to the law of the workings of the gods. The divinities, the divine dimensions, live according to the law of this revelation of witness, life, being and functioning. I crown the 2 supreme priests of the invocation, these all communing Father and Mother, these aspects drawing unto the center and seat and source of this imperishable foundational truth to its witness and aspect and comprising. The 7 pleasures take their rapture by the self-law of their nature. By the self-law of nature, the rapture at the seat and soul of all is drawn unto the purpose, communion, heart and soul of unparted revelation and truth. The truth they express. The truth only they speak. It is sounding its own wake in its own dimension and presence. The subtlety of its articulation is unparted from the full revealed communed brilliancy at the residence of the whole. The truth they express, this ungenerable, full, internal measure of communion, basis, witness, and life. The truth only they speak, this full concordance, sounding the harmony, dimension, fruition, and occasion through and through. Guardians of the law of its action, according to that law they shine, insofar as they are guarding the reality of this one condition and nature and truth. According to that, in that, of that, they shine. The many rays well governed in their course grow passionate for the great horse, the great embodiment, the many-hued ball, this full dimensions union of ruling reality and acquaintance. O divine priest of the call, inner agent, seat and soul of this witness and truth, rapturous, self-resplendent, self-divine, self-create, self-inherent, self-culminating and self-assumptive, awaking to knowledge and the truth of this foundation to yourself, attaining the ocean's peace in the water's own reality, bring here the great gods and earth and heaven, bring the full dimensions, the manifestation, the eminence of the great divines into and unto this communion and seat and soul of recollection of cause to be awoken. The swift running dawns, the vast, supreme, entire and supernal fluidity of the premonition in this communion of witness and self, anticipating its cause, the dawns, have shone opulently, richly, resplendently into all, bringing us our satisfactions, bringing us the eternal in the heart of the here, unto the all in the now, with their true speech, their rays of intuition, this supernal meditation and communion at the seat and soul of sacrifice. And do thou, O fire, by the greatness of the earth, by the supremeness of manifestation, cut away for the vast, for the universal and unconditioned and unconstrained, for the full horizon's self-inhering being in its truth, for the vast, cut away even the sin that has been done, even the wrongs, even the dislocation, even the decay, pass away and come into self-resplendent, self-enriching, self-informing, eternally continent and purposeful communion, soul, revelation of life and reality. In other words, O fire, achieve at my call the revealing speech, the many-actioned, the lasting conquest of the light. May there be for us a son of our begetting, pervading in his birth. O fire, may there be created in us that true thinking of thine. And so, being supremely unconditioned, it follows that bringing the peace of the whole, bringing the purpose of the whole, bringing the prescience of the whole, bringing the life, substance, essence, being, eternity, communion and reality of the whole into its innermost face of communion, realization, communion, access and seat of soul and center and self, attains to that true birth, attains to the heart of the term of its purposeful equalization, attains to the sun, the true sun, pervading and being accordant with both the condition of existence and cause and the full communing entirety of the purity of its foundation, that takes unto itself the essence of all expression, soul, seat, and witness, comes to be one with the self-caused cause, that takes light, energy, conversion, communion, and meditation unto its soul of truth, inner access of life and being and purpose of soul, nature, and station. For if nothing intervenes between a life and its instantiation, then it grows the full universal continent and purposeful measure of that realization through the essence of its undisrupted being in its truth. And so coming to that consciousness, coming to that basis, coming to that all-inclusive dimension, degree, and communion that resides everywhere unto the heart of that which is the they spoken of here, was always the access, the ripening, the realization that could not look for disassociated faces or margins, but had to live brilliantly, in dignity, in depth, to this nature of soul, unison, function, and station, which is ours to be lived, again, to the truth of redeeming entirety.